All right, welcome back to Beat the Count. We are live here at Sweet Science Boxing Gym in Hawthorne, California. A weekend full of fights to discuss and a very special guest this afternoon. But before we get to that, I'm going to turn to my right and say thank you to my co-host, Anthony Stack Saldana, lead writer for Supreme Boxing.
Glad to be back. Another Sunday. A couple special guests in the house, so I'm ready to get started.
Of course, and we have, as I mentioned before, a couple weeks' worth of very controversial cuts to discuss between Tyson Fury and, of course, last night, Midland's own Michael Dutchover. So on the business end of one of those cuts, unfortunately suffered a stoppage in a fight that he was winning. So we brought in the expert to help us discuss that. Big Serge, Cutman, what's up, man?
How you doing? Thanks for having me again and looking forward to this.
Of course. And to my immediate left, Royal Storm, former WBO World Super Bantamweight champion, Isaac Dogboe. What's up, brother?
I'm very good. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent.
That's
Thank you guys so much for coming out to talk boxing with us today.
No, thanks
My
for having
pleasure.
us.
Stacks and I appreciate it.
Likewise.
Yeah. So there's a lot of fights and topics to cover, but before we do that, Isaac, I thought we would talk to you a little bit about your history, your experience, and some of the things that you think are next for you in the sport of boxing.
Well, today's a beautiful day. It's Sunday, and, we have to give all the glory to God, for watching over us throughout the whole week, last week, Sundays are the days that, we sit back, we stay in our homes and just reflect on how the week, how our days went, and just give thanks to God and observe the Sabbath and keep it holy, as we put it, So we had to drive about an hour here, and it's great, you guys inviting us to this section.
I appreciate you guys taking the long drive because, Serge, I know you come from a long way, too. Plus, it's hot in here. This is a boxing gym. We don't have AC. My apologies to the live studio audience. You guys are probably baking. If you need anything, let me know. Oh, man. So you were, of course, born in Ghana but raised in South London. Is that true?
Yep.
And you moved to South London at the age of 7 years old?
Yeah, roundabout.
And there was a period of time, though, from 7 to about 14 where you weren't focused on boxing.
Well, I wasn't into boxing until I was 14.
14 years old?
Yeah, that's when my father actually got me into boxing, Before I was pursuing football, soccer. Yeah, so but I wasn't really going well. And then, my father saw that, look, there's a chance to do something different. So he introduced me into boxing, started training me in the parks, and then it was just history. My first, we're training constantly each and every day, after school, before I go to school, and for about 7 months before joining a boxing club. So then my first year of me joining, I won the junior national title, and then, it was history from there. I won 3 national championships of England, and then, I was 17 for going to the Olympic Games.
Is that a record? 17 for the Olympic Games for Ghana?
Yeah.
Yeah, for Ghana.
Yeah.
So, and you participated, to be clear, you were on the Olympic team for Ghana, but this is because in the UK, their selection process is very stringent. They make that selection years and years in advance, correct?
Yep. Yeah.
So you started at 17, and you essentially had already missed the window for the opportunity to participate for the UK.
Yeah.
So you went to Ghana.
From my father speaking with the ABA, Amateur Boxing Association of England president, they said to my father that, look, we did our selection like 4 years prior, and at the time I wasn't even in boxing, so the person in my weight had already been selected, because they groomed them, from young.
Yeah,
until the
especially
Olympics.
because they had the London Olympics there prior to that.
Exactly.
They had a big squad. It was Great Britain had a very good boxing team that year. So I can just imagine that they already, like you said, 4 years prior, they already had it planned out who they wanted 4 years later for the Olympics.
Exactly.
And so they actually wanted you to stick around and wait for Rio.
Yep.
But instead you went to train in Ghana.
Yeah. The Olympics was happening right in my backyard, in London, I had to be part of it, so my father saw it fit that, let's see how this goes. He contacted the Ghana amateur boxing president at the time, and told him about me. And the gentleman said, well, I'm too young, and when I do come to Ghana, the people are much more stronger, older, and it's gonna be a slaughter, on my part. And they went for competition, I think world championships, and they beat all of them. So then he came back to my father and said, well, look, this is the deal. I would like to have your son, justify your inclusions in Ghana to make the team. And I remember I was in college at the time. I was actually in class, and I received a phone call, and I said to my teacher that, could I excuse myself to pick up the call because it's coming from my father. So I picked the phone, and then he said to me, Isaac, the Ghana people want you in Ghana when I think on Friday, and this was I think Wednesday or something. So that was it. I went back to class and I said to my teacher, sir, I think I'm going to drop all my courses.
There you go.
And you went to Ghana. Initially, did you struggle with the weight? I've seen interviews, for instance, where your father has said, there are a lot of things that we had to bring to Ghana with us, concepts like nutrition, concepts like, supplements, diet, and doing things right in that way to manage weight. Did you have an issue making that weight for the Olympics?
Weight was really a major problem because I went to Ghana on my own, at the time I just won a tournament, and then so when the call came, my father said, you know what, don't worry, you just go, because I know we're already training, we just finished a national tournament and you won it. So I went to Ghana on my own, with the notion that some people at the time said they put in certain things in place for when we come, me and some other people. But look, I went to Ghana, there was nothing of that sort, so we had to be doing things the hard way. It took me a while until I complained to my father, and then he sort of just changed everything, told me to go to my grandfather's place, and live there and be training with the boys over there, because we're just kind of like just put into a place and just had to care for our own selves. And I went to the qualification in Morocco. I was the only fighter to win a silver medal, and the Olympic Games were camped at Cardiff, and they really weren't doing anything. So I phoned my father and said to him that, look, my weight is going up. We are being served cold food, and this really cannot. My weight just keeps shooting up. Right now, I don't even know what I'm doing. And the coaches there, they're not serious about the whole program. So he had to take some time off work, to come to to Cardiff University, and that was where we're camping at. So to kind of get me into shape and help me with the weight loss, and that's how I was able to lose weight.
Eventually, you worked that out. You moved on to the Olympics, and you received an unfortunate decision in the Olympics. Is that fair to say? So, for those of you who don't know, Isaac was leading after 2 rounds by a number of points, and then in the 3rd round, I believe there was a 5-2 score in favor of your opponent, which is essentially overturned that lead, which is how, using the point system in the Olympics, a controversial decision, to say the least. But I'm reflecting on that now. Do you have any thoughts or opinions about it?
Well, everything. One thing my father said to me was this: look, don't let it beat you down too much, because all you have to understand is this: some things happen for a reason. Maybe it just wasn't your time, So we had to really back down. Straight away, my father put me into the senior elite ABAs of England, and this time I did it lightweight. so 60 kilos, and straight away, I just, I blew everyone out in the division and became number 1 in the whole of England and won the national title. So after that, we just turned over because, there really wasn't anything left in the amateurs for us.
Yeah, that was something that I found really interesting. So you mentioned you have 3 national titles. One of those actually came immediately in the aftermath of the Olympics because your father, which I assume this is a move to rebuild confidence and do some things like that, put you into a national tournament, like straight away. And would you say that that did a lot for your confidence stepping into your pro career?
Of course, it did, because after the Olympic Games, it was, I was so disheartened at some point, but then, every time I speak with my father, he always had the right words to say to me. And the course of action that he took, it was perfect. And yeah, it was just kind of like, we just, shoot up from there.
Now, in your professional career, we mentioned before, your career, you've had a lot of tremendous accomplishments as well as a lot of challenges. So, for instance, you were going to the Olympics for Ghana, but you had issues with the weight. You guys were able to mediate that. As a professional, you step into the scene. There were some early managerial problems, some early promotional kind of...
Wow, you've really gone deep.
Yeah. That's what we do, man.
He knows what he's talking about.
Exactly.
You had some early managerial problems, and essentially you had to be a world traveler, right? So you competed initially in Switzerland, and then you competed in I think close to in Belfast, but not in Great Britain. And since then, you found a home kind of in Southern California, where you made your bones on cards here, like all-star boxing cards in Montebello and downtown Los Angeles and things like that. I heard you say in an interview recently, you essentially said if you want to be the best, you have to be among the best, referring to Los Angeles and the type of sparring and the events and things that you get here. Do you feel like now that you're stationed here and training here, is that something where it was good for your professional career? So even though you weren't getting to compete a lot initially in Ghana or in the UK, was it good to be here in Los Angeles?
Most definitely. You're surrounded by all types of fighters, and the environment too is also great. You're surrounded the beach, you have the mountains and everything, and you have different type of fighters with different styles. You mix it up. We have the Mexicans can fight. They can fight, and I'm telling you, I've fought some Mexicans. When I was coming up, and boy, it was an exciting fight. Going into knowing that raw.
I think that's the big thing here about Los Angeles that people don't understand, right? Is that people say, oh, yeah, you have all these top-level contenders training out there, but any champion can come to any gym here, get in the ring and spar a no-name and still have one of the toughest sparring matches he'll ever have anywhere in the United States.
Of course.
With somebody that's not even at an elite level yet. It's just because we have so many boxers here, so many different cultures here. It's just... This is the breeding ground right now for boxing. I mean, it's the hub.
It's definitely a hotbed. You have all these Russians coming out here, these Kazakhstani fighters, and I mean they're coming from everywhere. And I think just like Isaac said, you have to be among the best if you want to become the best. And right here in LA, it's a hotbed. You'll find it all here.
And it was so exciting. The time when at the gyms and stuff, That's how my name also went out, because every time people come, and we'll be sparring and things would get heated up, and it was just the whole gym would come to a standstill.
Yeah, I just talked to talked to Carlos, to Carlos out in Maywood Gym. Okay. And they said, hey, Dogboe's out here trying to spar with some of my guys. He's going to be out here Friday with James Toney. Why don't you come out? You want to see some good sparring? Come see Dogboe. He's out here sparring. So, yeah, your name's out here, man. We know, hey, you want to see some good sparring and some good action. They know where Dogboe's at, man.
Yeah. I actually think you had an opportunity to spar with some people from this gym recently, as far as I know. Yeah.
Joey Abudi.
Joey Abudi, yeah.
He's he's an amateur still, right? He hasn't turned pro?
He's an amateur. He's the Southern California Golden Gloves champion.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think you did some sparring with him as well.
Yeah, and you've crossed paths with Big Serge a number of times too. We're big on LA boxing here. This is the LA boxing scene here. So Serge, you were working the corner for Jesse Magdaleno.
Yes, I was. We were just talking about that earlier on. You know, it was an interesting situation. It was good vibes. You know, I mean, world class team. You know, I was in there observing the hand wraps, and nothing that I didn't expect. You know, like I said, it was a very professional corner. Made it very easy for me to be there, and for a little bit, I even got comfortable there. It wasn't like an uptight moment, you know. I got comfortable, so yeah, you know.
Let's give a shout out real quick to the people tuning in, man. To Cesar Gonzalez, to who else? Carlos, he's watching in as well. Aaron Sorio, Chip Mitchell. Couple of questions that we'll get to. Is he moving up? That's the plan right now. It looks like he's going to be fighting against Carl Frampton November 30th at the Cosmopolitan. That's the plan. It was scheduled for Los Angeles, for the Bank of California Stadium, but when the Jose Ramirez Victor Postal fight fell through, it elevated Oscar Valdez to making his debut in the main event, with you going up against Frampton in the co-main event. And that fight actually just got moved last week. I was informed that it would be held at the Cosmopolitan in Las Vegas. So we will get to that. But yes, you are moving up. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the weight as a professional. So initially, you, as we mentioned before, even as an amateur, you actually fought above super bantam. I saw an interview with your father where he said, essentially, super bantam is somewhere where we would go only if there was a life-changing opportunity, right? So you actually are used to competing with bigger men. It just turns out that there was a life-changing opportunity for you at super bantamweight, and that was the WBO world title, Jesse Magdaleno at the time.
You know, that's the reason why, you know, I have to always say thank you to my father, you know, because he's a man of great vision. In everything that he's spoken of, you know, it has manifested. And we were here, and I was featherweight, you know. But then, I started out, you know, I was with my manager, Andy Zach, of Journeyman Management, you know, and I mean everything was great. We're fighting, but then sometimes some of these guys will come up, you know, top heavy. You know, they'll tell us, you know, you have to be this particular weight, and then I'll be at the weight sometimes a little bit under, and they'll come 130 something, 140, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, so it was kind of like the thing where, you know, my father kind of like had a bit of a issue with that, because when you tell someone, when you arrange for a fight to a certain weight, and you expect everybody to be at that weight, you know, that way, you know, no one is having the upper hand. But we'll go out there, we'll train so hard, and then we'll come, and, you know, there's a weight issue. But at the same time, we still took the fight anyway, because we prepared for it. So
yeah, I think the first time I seen you fight, I was actually streaming your fight. You were fighting in Ghana against Cesar Juarez.
yeah.
That crowd was wild. I was watching on a Facebook stream, and I never heard of Dogboe. I figured Juarez was going to get in there and take care of business, and, you know, come back to Mexico with the win. You know, and wow, it was.
You got that wrong.
Oh, completely wrong. Yeah. So when he came back to the States, when it was time for him to fight Magdaleno, like, a lot of people didn't know who he was. They hadn't studied up on him, right? I told everybody. He's gonna beat him. He's gonna beat Magdaleno.
It was just like how we expected it to be, you know. You know, we took the road. We were fighting out in Ghana. After some time here in California, and we knew that, look, when the time comes, the world will just, you know, they'll see something, someone just explode out of nowhere, and it happened, you know. And nobody really expected it, you know. They hear of the name, but then they hadn't really seen the the person behind the name, the person that bears the name. So it was just one of those things that it was gonna happen, sooner or later. And Cesar Juarez was he was tough.
Yeah.
He came very prepared, and
I think that stadium was like aluminum seats, right? So
it was
so loud.
Bleachers. Type.
Yeah, and they were just banging and blowing vuvuzelas and everything else. It was wild, man. I'd never seen anything like that.
When we left California, my father, we were operating under Rising Star Africa Promotions. That's one of my promotional companies, one of promotional companies that I'm signed to. So, all the shows that they put together were really big shows. That's how we're able to kind of like shape the face of boxing in Ghana, or I would say Africa in a way, because we're doing things that were being done here, doing the right things and trying to, change the image of boxing in Ghana. Because when you're in Africa, when boxing is seen is sold to the public as a sport that is for the less privileged in a way, because you have to be a bad boy, you have to be a poor person, you have to be in poverty, that sort of kind of thing. They don't expect people with good education to be in boxing, so that was the idea that we're trying to change behind it. So when I started fighting, then we started attracting more people. We're attracting kings, queens, politicians, people of, how do you call it? Substance. Is that
so of every economic background,
Exactly.
You had the rich, you had the poor,
Exactly.
king, queens, everybody gathered around to watch you fight.
Exactly. And, came when the time came for us to, drop down to super bantamweight, we're in New Zealand, and that was on the undercard of
Andy
Andrew
Ruiz.
Ruiz and
Yeah.
Joseph Parker. And we went there, and we took the title, and defended it, I think, once or twice before Cesar Juarez fight came.
Yep.
And everybody, I remember my father said to me, "Now look, I have to go to the WBO convention and try and lobby for the fight, because we wanted to get a fight in Ghana, because I became number 2 contender, wasn't available, so I went over there, and then we lobbied for the fight." And I could remember the WBO president, Paco Valcasel, telling me that, "Look, Cesar Juarez, he's a Mexican, he's a Mexican, man. Look, this guy's a Mexican. You gotta be careful, man. He can hit hard, man." And I was like, "Don't worry." I just smiled a little bit at him, and I said, "Don't worry. All we need is for us to host the fight in Ghana." And they gave us a deadline. I think 72 hours, 48 to 72 hours. To make to get the purse ready. And we had to wire the money into the WBO's account for them to hold in trust before Cesar Juarez will come to Ghana.
Yeah.
Because there's an apparent thing that people think Africa, so probably the people are not they are not well to do.
They thought you were gonna get scammed. They thought they were gonna get scammed.
Exactly. So I mean, we done things accordingly, and everything just went well. We my father made sure that the money was wired there. He made sure that in terms of visa and all the other things that comes with it, everything was sorted out. Cesar Juarez came. He had a great time. He and his team. We treated them well. Put them in a 5-star hotel. And look, it was amazing. And at the end of the day, we knew that that title, we're gonna take that title, and I was gonna go and fight for the world title. And it was a great fight. The whole stadium was packed. And to the extent that it was overflowed. And I think it was about 15,000 people. But then it was more than that. The amount of people that were inside, I was told that there were more people outside than inside. So they had to call in reinforcement with soldiers, security forces to come and actually control the crowd, both in and out.
It was a wild scene. I remember seeing it. It was a wild scene, man.
I remember I came out of the changing room, and I was like, I was shocked.
Yeah.
I was shocked. I said to my dad, look, look. There's someone at the top.
He was like, pay attention. Focus on the fight.
So growing up, man, did you look up to some of the fighters from Ghana, like Azuma Nelson, like Joshua Claudy, like some of these other people from Ghana?
Well, of course, like I said, my father introduced me to boxing, so all those people came later, because I was in England, and I didn't know anything about boxing at the time. So when my father got me into boxing, that's when he started showing me clips of Azuma Nelson. They showed me clips of, lives of, Joshua Clottey and some of the fights that some world champions out there, showing me fights of, some of these great fighters, Sugar Ray Leonard, Muhammad Ali, look, it was an educational thing, like constantly, and sometimes we could be asleep, we could be just there, just chilling, and then my father would come, just show me a few stuff, I'll be hitting him in his palm, constantly like learning and things. So yeah, we just kind of like, it became, everything was just at one point we just had to just go through the paces.
We talk about all of the skill and the talent that you experience, but we know sitting here that it takes more than that to create a great fighter. And you have this electric personality that comes along with one of the most marketable catchphrases, a spiritual mantra that you follow. Would you tell us what that is?
You mean NeHo?
No. Did I do it okay?
No.
No. I will say you can't help but love it. And I will say that I'm sure that a number of people don't have a full understanding of its meaning. I've spent a lot of time looking into the different descriptions, and it sounds to you that it has a lot of meaning. It has a meaning. I've heard you say it means to uproot, but it's also something that means that you're among the warriors. It's invoking the spirit of your ancestors. Can you talk about the origin of NeHo and because everybody loves it? We all love it.
To simply put it, to uproot, it comes in the Bible, that God has given us the power and the strength, to that in terms of any adversities that we're going to go through, it's given us the power already to clear everything in our paths, just to uproot everything. So whatever problem that we are facing, we have to go through it. The only way we can be safe, or we can reach, achieve success, is by going through that challenge. So when you are going through it, you psych yourself up. You could be down, but your spirit should not be down. You have to be able to find that spirit and invoke yourself and motivate yourself, encourage yourself to say to yourself that, look, God has given us a never failing excellence that through hope we shall overcome. So we're going to go through this issue, and I'm going to just soar through it. And at the end of the day, I'm going to come out victorious. So we're having that mentality, that, look, nothing can stop you. And that's when we get to a place that is, thick, we will start screaming NeHo, because these are the times that we are calling the spirits to also guide us through the way.
That's deep.
That's awesome.
Right. So you're a top-ranked fighter, right? When were you actually signed to Top Rank? After the Magdaleno fight?
Yeah.
So other top-ranked fighters include the likes of Tyson Fury, who was in a big fight last week against Otto Wallin at T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. Did you watch the Fury fight?
Yeah.
Do you think it was right of the referee to allow Fury to continue to fight with that gash that he had over his eye?
Look, you can't really bug the referee too much, because the referees are there to protect the fighters. At the same time, the corners of the fighters are also there to protect their own fighter. Because, the thing is, the corners, take me as an example. When I was fighting with Navarrete, and things were going wrong, my father will tell me, look, if you don't do this, I'm going to stop the fight. It's the corner's duty to protect their fighter. The ref will tell you, are you okay to carry on? If the fighter says no, then he has a right to stop it. But the fighter says yes, then, and he feels that, okay, he's strong enough to carry on, then the ref will let you continue. But then that's why sometimes at the end of the round, the ref will call the doctor. The doctor is also on ringside to also see to it that they are in severe damage. So you have the doctor, you have the corner, the head coach, and you have the fighter himself and the ref.
And I'm glad you brought up the point about your father telling you, hey, when things are going wrong, if you don't fix this, I'm going to stop the fight. Or you saying the corner protecting them, because as a fighter, you're a warrior. When they ask you if you want to continue, you're going to say yes. Very rarely do you see a fighter.
I just want to put out there.
A fighter actually say, no, I don't want to continue. Usually they have too much heart, for their own good. So go ahead.
Fighters are not like soccer players. Soccer player, you don't touch them, and then they're already on the floor, screaming. With us, someone has got his jaw cracked. His nose is twisted in one direction. And the guy, you ask him, are you okay? And they say, yeah, I'm good. I can go. No, I'm good. No, don't stop it. No, I'm good. That's different. Someone might think is an ego thing. But at the same time, that's how we program ourselves to be. You go through all that hardship during training. You put yourself through excruciating pain, to make sure that once you get into the ring, you want to win at all costs. And that comes with the sacrifices. So sometimes, because of how much we've been able to endure during our training camps, when you get into the ring, it's hard for you to say, look, this is wrong with me. It's hard for you to tell your coach or your corner to say, no, I can't fight anymore. When that comes out of your mouth, then the fight, I don't think that you are, I think you are, it's best if you are prepared to retire. At that moment, that's when the coach's job becomes a bit difficult, and also at the same time very important, because it's the coach's job to ensure that his fighter is safe. I remember when my father stopped my last fight. He threw in after I got knocked down, and he threw in the towel. I remember me telling him that no. But at the same time, he was on the outside. He's watching what's going on inside. I cannot see myself about what's happening. I can only feel what's going on. I can only tell what's in my heart and what's in my mind. I want to continue. But then whatever the coach is seeing from the outside, if it doesn't sit well with him, then he has a right to stop it. And I think, sometimes you can't really blame the ref too much, because you have a number of people there, and you have the coaching team as well. They will also discuss about what's going on, and everything just comes down to protecting their fighter.
I think in this particular instance, too, to Isaac's point, this is really more a stoppage that comes from the doctor. Tony Weeks' responsibility is to make sure that the doctor's getting a look at that cut and has an idea of how severe it is, which he did. Tony Weeks stopped the fight. He called a halt to the action. He brought him over to the doctor. The doctor examined him, said he can continue. The doctor examined him in subsequent rounds and said he can continue. So it's not really Tony Weeks' call. And I think the other thing that people have to keep in mind is, it's Tony Weeks. It's the same guy who let Badu Jack fight with, the cut in his face. Yeah, with one of the most grotesque cuts I can recall seeing in boxing. But it's not really his call, and I think some of it is on the demeanor of the fighter. And I mentioned this last week, but Tyson Fury, he went to the corner and he rushed that doctor. He said, I'm good, I can see, I want to fight, let's go. right? And he told him, I'm good.
Exactly.
Right? Like, and he, like, when the doctor was examining it, no, I'm good. I can see. And it's the same thing he did to convince Jack Reese that he wasn't, unconscious at the end of his fight with Deontay Wilder. He jumped up, he ran back and forth, he went to him, and he said, I can fight. I'm good.
But you know what?
Right? Like you have to, he projected that.
That's where the importance, though, of the communication either between the fighter and the corner and that doctor has to be. I remember the fight at Fantasy Springs. It was a fight there at Fantasy Springs where you were in the corner of Roy Tapia, and he was cut on both eyes.
Right.
And you were just pumping it into the ref. I got this. Give me a chance to work. After the fight, the doctor came up to Sergio because they were stitching up Roy, and the doctor tells him, if it was anybody else, I would have stopped the fight, but I let you work. He let him work. He stopped the bleeding. Roy actually ended up squeezing out a split decision.
Yeah.
So that's why you have people like the Cutman also in the corner as well. So all these people play a huge part in a boxer's in a fight.
So let's ask the expert. So, meaning you've seen your share of cuts,
yes,
Serge.
Yes.
And my impression is that was a pretty gnarly cut.
It
or
was.
2 cuts, I should say. It
Yeah,
required
2
40
cuts,
something
2 cuts.
stitches. So,
It definitely was gnarly. I mean, I've had the opportunity to go to Capetillo's gym, interact with them. Just, not long ago, Jesse's last fight up here at Staples. No, it wasn't Staples, was it? His most recent fight.
Oh, at the Bank of California.
There you go, Bank of California Stadium. That's right. I had opportunity again, helped them out. Wasn't in the corner, but helped them out prior to. But it's one of those things that I think all three of you touched little bits and pieces. Yeah, it's a team effort. It's not just one person's call, other than the doctor. Yes, the referee is definitely going to go in there, and check on the fighter. What's going on mentally. How does he look? Is he coherent enough? Does he look like he's sturdy enough to continue? He could stop it with just that, but I don't necessarily think that a referee is going to stop it because of a laceration. He's going to refer that to the physician, the ringside physician, who has the ultimate decision. I think for what it's worth, Capetillo did a great job. He did a great job.
Excellent. Yeah.
Exactly. And I was probably one of the first. I didn't wait until, after commentary, interviews. No, immediately after the fight, I reached out. I have the message on my phone. I said, you did a great job, coach. Great job. You saved his fight. You saved not just this one, the future one. You saved Top Rank. It was a big deal,
And it's a multi-million-dollar save.
And see, the thing about it is, and I'm not talking down to Capetillo or anything, but there really wasn't much that you can do with that type of cut except pack it with Vaseline.
Yeah.
I've seen people work different ways on different types of cuts, but when you have something that big of a gash the way Tyson did, the only way really to stop it is with the adrenaline and the Vaseline. I mean, there's not a whole lot that you can do.
And in essence, as a cut man, we can sit here, and I'm glad that I was invited here, because I was surprised with the amount of phone calls and messages that I was receiving. What would you have done? Hey, what do you think? And it's real easy for us to watch on the outside on the tube or in the crowd and be judgmental. Oh, that's not clean enough. That's not pretty enough. He should have, shoulda, coulda, woulda. But you're not that cut man in the heat of the moment with 60 seconds to save this fighter, the opportunity of taking a loss. You have to allow him to continue doing his job. And to me, it's, it's unfair to have people question the work. It worked. He got him through the fight. And to me, that's what our job is, obviously to protect the fighter, keep him safe, but he managed the cut. He, obviously it didn't help when they were rigging at the wound. Smart move, smart move. If I'm trying to get them to stop the fight, hell yeah, rig that. It's not the right thing to do. You expect fighters to go in there and do their job right.
Yeah, not so blatantly.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You could tell in the corner, for instance, they're going to tell him, hey, go in there and open that cut wider.
Exactly.
Do everything you can to make that cut bigger.
Exactly, because
right?
now you have another way of possibly winning
and that's
without
okay.
even
But
taking any
I
money.
don't hate that. But, like, that doesn't mean, like, hey, when at the end of the bell, like, give him an elbow, give him a solid elbow to the eye. Like, no, you have to do it, like, with tact. You have to do it with...
But
I
think when Volin did that, and I think when he raked at his eye, it actually turned and bite him in the ass, because what it did is it opened up the gash even more. So now instead of the blood falling directly into the eye, it was coming around the side of his eye.
I think
you know. So
just if you look at the cut, regardless, I mean, it was clean. It was a nice clean cut. You know, my understanding, I wasn't there. My understanding is that it wasn't. It didn't need microsurgery to close it from the inside with, you know, inside suturing and outside suturing. Perfect example, Jose Estrada, you know, when she sustained her first laceration. She had sutures inside, she has sutures outside, and staples.
Staples, yeah.
So, I mean, and that was right in a place where the blood is going to trickle down regardless. It's going to come down. But, you know, to her benefit, you know, women with hair, it absorbs and kind of helped. Kind of did a sponge effect. But no, I mean, yeah, the cut was gruesome. It was big. It was gnarly. I think what made it look worse was the packing, you know, and the smearing. And if you recall, Tyson would continuously do this. I don't know if the sweat that he thought was maybe blood or whatnot, but it made it look ugly. But like I said, Capetillo controlled the bleeding. If you look at the moments coming back into the round, it didn't start gushing right away. It was controlled up until, you know, obviously he'd get cracked or they'd get rigged or something. So he did a great job.
Yeah, to your point, also, essentially, you take what you can get. You take what you can get away with. So, for instance, as a fighter, you would say you work until the ref tells you not to work, right? Like, and that's one of the pieces of information that you give. So you stop when the ref tells you to stop, and not before that. If you're doing something and it's working, right, you stop when the ref tells you to stop. If he can pack that cut or overpack that cut and cause it to, you know, and the ref doesn't say anything other than giving him a towel wipe or something like that, then do it. Because
keep doing it.
Yeah, keep doing it. Do it as long as you can get away with it.
Hey,
right?
I'm guilty of that. I've done it before. You know, I've had fighters with huge gashes. You know, MMA fighters, a huge elbow drop into to the forehead or whatnot, and I'll pack it. You know,
yeah, they'll tell you to wipe it away.
Obviously,
they'll
as
tell
big,
you.
Obviously, as big as that cut was.
So now I know if I happen to fight anyone that you're in the corner, I'll make sure that I tell the ref.
You guys have to complain. Say like he's overpacking that cut in the corner. Tell him to wipe it off.
You know, though, he does, besides being a cut man, 24 years as a combat. Was it 22? Okay, excuse me. 22 years as a combat medic.
Still a grip of years, man.
In the Army. So those little cuts that he sees in the boxing ring ain't nothing compared to what he's seen when he was in war. So if you ever need a good cut, man, there he is right there, Isaac.
There you go. I'll drop you a business card.
Set the record straight with that 22 right there.
Yeah, no, hey, you know, I don't want to take more credit. I'll tell you, you know,
stolen valor.
And that's the thing, you know, when you start faking things when it comes to the military, people call you out on it, you know, and I don't ever want to put myself in that situation. I'll
Fair enough.
Clearly tell you, know, it was this amount of time, not that, you know, but no, you know, for the most part, I think, you know, Capetillo, it's sad that it took something as big as this for him to get the recognition or to be put on the map. Hey, he's been around for a long time, you know. He's a hell of a cut man. He's known for it, and I'm just glad it happened. You know, I'm glad the acknowledgement is there. You know, people. I'm glad he was there to fix it and to take care of it, so that fighters, managers, promoters can realize that shit, there is a value in having a cut man. You know, there's a lot of trainers out there, you know, and not to talk down or nothing. I'm just speaking a fact. There's a lot of trainers out there that are like, I can do it all. I'm a coach. I'm a cut man. I'm a this. I'm a that. And a lot of them are that. You know, I'm not taking it away from it. But my mentality or my idea of it is, why not allow coach to focus on the fight? Why not allow the cut man to focus on the fighter? And it's a pretty little puzzle there. Why give the added stress or the added, you know, worry to the coach when he needs to focus on what your fighter is doing right or wrong and adjust the game plan? You know, I think everybody has their piece, and as long as everybody can make that puzzle stick together, it's a beautiful, beautiful marriage.
And that's where the commission actually has to allow people to work. I know you're talking about the Cutman and stuff, but what I'm doing is I'm getting back to the actual cut, because on Friday night we had a local fighter, Michael Dutchover. He's actually from Midland, Texas, but now he fights out of Santa Fe Springs. He was involved in a fight Friday night. He was going into the 8th round ahead on 2 of the judges' scorecards. He got hit, so it was a punch. It wasn't a headbutt. He was hit with a punch, and he was cut over his eye. The doctor took a look at him and called off the fight, never allowed the cut man a chance to work. But from the beginning of that show on Showtime, it was a shit show in Texas. From a rope breaking.
Excuse our language.
From a rope breaking to allowing the fighter to have a 4-minute round after getting a knockdown. He knocked his opponent down. They gave him a 4-minute 12-second round. The next round, the rope broke. They had a 10 to 12-minute delay. Then you have a doctor that doesn't allow the corner to work on a cut. It was pathetic.
It's a bad night.
I will say
the commission was bad.
The 4-minute round is a little bit unacceptable because, I mean, not a little bit. The fighter was downed and hurt in that round and then had to proceed for another minute and 10 seconds beyond what he should have had to proceed. And, ultimately he was able to stay standing. But going 4 minutes is... Having to have the commentators turn to the timekeeper and go, "Hey, this is a really long round." Before he,
Wow.
You may want to ring it now. We're at 4:12. You may want to stop this round.
So was it the timekeeper's error, or
It had to
was
have
it
been.
just
The timekeeper
instruction,
error.
or
Yeah, it was the timekeeper's error.
it wasn't like soccer where we're going into extra time?
No, they didn't go.
No, they don't do that in boxing.
Overtime. There's no overtime
there's no
in boxing.
overtime.
No added minutes.
We wish sometimes though. You
know
got
what?
those very close.
Dogboe's got him
ties.
hurt. Let's give him another 40 seconds. We're going to add 40 seconds to the round. Knock him out. Go
A minute
ahead.
and 10 to the round here.
No, but they didn't allow him to work, and
That's sad.
I just think that it shouldn't matter as a boxer. If you're in that ring, you should have the same rules pertain to you as a world champion does. Okay, with Tyson Fury, they didn't stop the fight. They allowed the corner to work. They allowed him to pack the cut. They allowed them to continue, and he ended up winning the fight. This kid was ahead on 2 scorecards in his hometown. Give the corner a chance to work. Just because he's not a big name, just because he's an up-and-comer doesn't mean he doesn't deserve that same opportunity as a world champion.
You're
But
right.
what round did they start the fight, though?
They stopped it in the 8th.
8 of 10.
8 of 10.
Yeah, so they stopped it in the
But
8th round.
And the cut was a minimal cut.
If he's on, if he was leading on the scorecards, shouldn't they have gone on to their scorecards?
It wasn't a
It
headbutt.
was from
it was
a
a
punch.
Yeah, it was
okay.
caused by
So
a
it was
punch.
From a
Okay.
punch.
But it wasn't that he couldn't continue. I mean, the
He
doctor
wanted
stopped
to
it.
continue,
If he
and the
wanted
doctor
to
stopped it.
continue, I could understand if the fighter says, I can't continue, or if the physician says he can't continue because of the cut. Was that the scenario? I missed the fight.
So
but
the doctor jumps up. They never wipe at it. They never clean it. The doctor, as he's getting up, says, "We're done." And I'm watching the TV, and he looks at it, and he says, "We're done."
I'd have been
and
pissed.
waves it off. Never took a towel. Never dabbed at it. Never, inspected the cut to see how bad the cut actually
Right.
was. He seen the blood. Basically, was climbing up onto the mat and said, "We're done."
Yeah, and I will say, to Michael's credit, very few fighters have the level of class that he showed in defeat. Isaac, you're one of the people who is extremely classy in handling your defeats. I would say that Michael was the same way in that they're in Midland, Texas. This is not a big boxing community. I imagine the number of events that they host for boxing in Midland, Texas, I can probably count on one hand in a year. So the auditorium is certainly in favor of Michael and essentially wanted to riot at the end of this. Like, people start throwing things into the ring. And he immediately ran over. He calmed the crowd, and he escorted his opponent back to his locker room.
Wow.
By his side so that people wouldn't throw things at him and people wouldn't do any of this different stuff. So he was extremely classy.
Yeah, I give
it's one
credit.
of the most stand-up moments I think I've seen.
Because the opponent was the one that stopped the fight and gave himself the win, right? That's what people need to understand.
No, and it wasn't the opponent's fault, and that's
Exactly.
the thing. I mean, sometimes you see bad scorecards. It happens. Sometimes you see premature stoppages. Sometimes things like this happen, where Michael was ahead and the fight got stopped by a doctor that he had no control over and his opponent had no control over.
Right.
Like you said, it's not the opponent's fault. I'm sure they'll run it back. They'll fight here in California, or they'll fight in Vegas, somewhere else, and he'll get another shot at it, And sometimes Too many people focus on that. Oh, they want to go that whole career, and they want to be the Floyd Mayweather. They want to be the 50-0, and they focus too much on taking that first loss. But I personally think that once you get that loss, that pressure's gone. You learn from it. You continue and you move on. If you want to be a world champion, I mean, you look at somebody like Danny Roman, for instance. He had 3 or 4 losses at club shows in Ontario at Thompson.
You got to watch who you're talking about here, man. They've changed words. They've traded words a few times.
Yeah, he's moved up. Danny's
moved up, but they still traded words.
No, so and now he's a unified champion. And it just happened. It happens that way. You got Dogboe, a couple losses, but that doesn't make or break him as a fighter. He's going to continue to go now. He's stepping up after 2 consecutive losses. He's stepping up to fight one of the best in the 126-pound divisions. He's not just taking on a no-name at 26. He's stepping up and fighting a former world champion in Carl Frampton, because why? He knows in his heart he wants to be the best, and I'm sure he's learned from whatever happened with Navarrete.
Not that we want to speak for you or anything.
No.
But while we're on the subject of talking to that, let me give a few shout-outs here. Adam Lopez, shout out to Adam Lopez, who jumped on. Carlos Morales, a couple former Beat the Count guests and stand-up guys, good fighters.
Danny Zamora.
Coach Danny Zamora. We were just talking about Michael Dutchover's cut.
And his class.
Yeah, and his class, an extremely classy move by Michael Dutchover. And we're here, of course, with Isaac Dogboe and Big Serge Estrada, the experts. And while we're on the subject of talking to the experts, I think it's time. I think it's time for another round of Stump Stacks, the game where we stump stacks with boxing facts, and here's how it works. I will relay 3 pieces of information about our guest, Isaac Dogboe. 2 of them I pulled from recent interviews with Isaac. 1 of them I made up. Stacks, your job is to identify the one that I made up. Are you ready to play Stump Stacks?
Let's do this.
Serge, you got to help him, man. I'm undefeated in Stump Stacks.
I'm getting it right.
Here we go. Oh, yeah. Poker face on. Poker face on. Number 1. The name Royal Storm is derived in part from the fact that Isaac is descended from the Royal Badu family in Ghana, but that's not his only connection to royalty. At the request of the ambassador, Isaac personally greeted the heir apparent to the British throne, Prince Charles of Wales, and his wife, the Duchess of Cornwall, upon their arrival in Ghana. Number 2, Isaac is one of 7 siblings, 5 brothers and 1 sister, the eldest of which played at the same youth football club, what we refer to as soccer, as fellow Ghanaian national and welterweight world champion Joshua Clouty. Number 3, Isaac's grandfather would emphasize the importance of education, so much so that as Isaac was in the midst of collecting national titles and preparing for the Olympics, his grandfather called Paul Dogboe, Isaac's father and trainer, to persuade him to withdraw Isaac from boxing outright and focus on learning. Stacks, which one of those is false?
I'm going to say the Clouty. The number 2, I'm going to say B is false. I don't think anybody played soccer with Joshua Clouty.
He won. Stacks got it finally for the first time. Congratulations, Stacks.
Finally.
Stacks. The other 2 are true.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so it is true that I understand that your family places an emphasis on education. You yourself, worked to obtain degrees and expressed an interest in even continuing that education in the way of, I believe it was foreign relations or foreign policy.
Yeah.
But your grandfather tried to persuade your dad to take you out of boxing.
Yeah, that was during the Olympic Games when I went to Ghana.
During the Olympic Games.
Wow.
And, this like the greatest show on earth is about to happen. And you're telling your grandson, you're telling your son to pull your grandson out of the competition. And I was like, whoa. My father said to me that he was literally on the phone, like, sobbing. But I mean, may his soul rest in perfect peace. My father made a promise to him. And, sometimes every like that's what I was saying earlier before. When you're in Africa, they don't regard boxing as a sport for all people. They want you to be a lawyer, a doctor, an accountant. That's those sort of things, and stuff like that. But over here across the seas, you have doctors. The Klitschko's have boxers. world champions. You have accountants in the likes of Penna Whitaker and many other people. You have a lot of scholars who are into boxing. You know, you have lawyers into boxing and everyone. It's a sport for all people. It brings people together. And I just know that I believe that now the perspective is changing. Well, it has changed, to some extent. We just have to keep on doing what we have to do, and just the people that are coming up, from those places, they also have to make sure that they are also, at least they have their basic education, so that the way they sell themselves to the crowd, and they sell themselves to the sports. Their families will also know that, look, okay, we know that he's got his basic education or whatever. If anything should go wrong, he can do this or do that. He doesn't have to, just put everything into boxing.
And quickly, just to touch on this other point, because I think even though it's not boxing related, it's quite an impressive fact. You did, in fact, greet Prince Charles of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall in Ghana. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was actually in England, and then they, because at the time they were going to Ghana, and my father called me and said to me that, look, the British ambassador, the British High Commission wants you in Ghana on this date, because Prince Charles and his wife are coming to Ghana, so they need you to be there. So my father booked me a ticket, and I was on a flight. The same night that they landed, that same night I also landed. So from there, straight from the airport, it was straight to the British High Commission, and I met them. And then the following morning, we met at an event again. And then from there, I had to go see my other grandfather. That was the paramount king of the Volta region. So from there, I'm not gonna say how we made it there, but we made it there. We had to go see Prince Charles, and afterwards, and that same morning, we got to the other side. About 3 hour, ride.
3 hour ride, huh?
3 hour ride, yeah. So we got there and then made it back in time. And from there, I had to come back to, England and prepare for December.
That's quite an experience. And I know that you did some studying and I believe it was in exercise science, right? Or something of that nature. But then you expressed interest in the future pursuing something more related to foreign policy or foreign relations, citing a number of people who have done that successfully, whether it's Muhammad Ali, Manny Pacquiao, who've kind of made those types of transitions. What is it about that field, or what is it about that sort of is curious to you?
Well, if you're an athlete or an elite athlete, you're constantly in the public's domain, public's eye, So there's a lot of things that we as fighters or people in general want to do, because once you achieve a certain things, you want to be able to also help other people, because as you're traveling around the world, your eyes are opening. You're seeing so many things. You're seeing things that maybe, maybe I can do this to help this person, or maybe I can do this to help this group of people, or this area, or this or that, and that's where the motivation comes from, because we believe that it's a blessing, for God to bless you with everything that you want. Everything you ask for, you get it. But at the same time, the most important thing is also you also giving back, giving back to society. And I believe that if when I do this, that will open my mind more as to how we have to go about it, because you can't really give money to someone always. It's I'm helping this person. You have to do it in a way that it will benefit not just one person, but a lot more people. And it will be there so that they will also go and other people will also come and benefit from it.
Do you guys, I don't know if you guys remember the I Am Not a Role Model campaign, Charles Barkley, that sparked some controversy like in the mid-1990s, I'm not a role model.
Yeah.
I actually think Isaac has a very much a different stance. There's one quote I want to point out or comment on this where you said you never know who's watching, so you always have to be on the right path, and that's referring to, essentially the children or people that may be inspired by you that you don't know personally on a day-to-day basis. And I think that it's a very high road to take, and I appreciate it personally. So I just wanted to point that out.
No, I mean, that is you, and he's right. I mean, you never know who's watching, especially as athletes. You get a lot of fighters, as he says here in the United States. You have lawyers, you have doctors, you have, different cultures, different ethnic backgrounds, different economic backgrounds that fight here in the United States, where when you come from third world countries, when you come from Africa, when you come from the Philippines, even when you come from Mexico, it's a poor sport. And these kids look at these fighters as role models and examples, whether they want to be or not. A lot of them look at it as like, I want to be like these guys. And it's in every sport, not just in boxing, but I mean, whether it's soccer, whatever sport, that kid likes growing up, he's watching them. He wants to imitate them. That's who they want to be like. I mean, I remember as a kid running around with a Dodger jersey, I want to be Pedro Guerrero. I want to be Fernando Valenzuela. I mean, I never was. I'm myself now, but I mean, you look up to these people,
So thanks for taking the time to explain that, and congratulations to Stacks on his first ever victory on Stump Stacks with Boxing Facts. You helped him out, Serge.
It was mental vibes.
Gave him the mental vibes. Oh, man.
Training with James Toney.
Yeah, that's right. So you are now in the process of training with James Toney. I also read that that somehow Billy Blanks is involved in fitness for you. Billy Blanks, for those of you who don't know, is kind of a fitness celebrity in the United States as the inventor and founder of Tybo. And which is something that was popular when I was younger. I can't say exactly what the time frame was. Yeah, like maybe like the mid 90s or something like that. And so you've been recently working with James Toney as well as with Billy Blanks. Can you tell us about that experience?
Well, my father still remains a key part of my training team.
Of course.
Yeah. He, as time goes on, he can't really do the pass as much as we used to when we first started, because he says I'm growing, and
you're moving up in weight, man. I can see the biceps and the guns. Show that to the camera.
Injuries and things, and stuff like that. So he said, you know what? Right now, we're coming back to California. We came back, and we came back with our old management. That's Andy Zach. So he brought on a new team. So you know what? It'll be great. At first, it was he suggested Freddie Roach. But look, Freddie's a great guy. Everyone knows that Freddie has a great resume in terms of other world champions, like Manny Pacquiao, and other great world champions. But look, we have to be with a team that you feel comfortable with. So I was in Freddie's gym for about a week, until we moved from where we were staying before. It's just, you need to be very comfortable as a fighter in who you are training with and everyone around you. And we just saw that it wasn't, chemistry wasn't really there, the type of fighter that I am, and the type of training that I do, and everything that I do, it has to be some sort of a structure approach. And once it's not there, when the chemistry is not there, you have to find people around you that you can blend with, and maybe if Pacquiao's old coach from childhood, is it Bupa or
Buboy
yeah.
Fernandez, yeah.
Maybe I would have felt more comfortable training with him, but it's different. Nobody knows because it never happened.
Yeah.
So my father said, you know what, James Toney is a legend. He's one of the greatest defensive fighters of all times, and let's bring him on board. Let's add him to our coaching team. Let's see how also take his view, Let's see what he can also add. Let's add his voice also to the coaching team, as well as Buddy Miguel. So all these guys, my father also brought Buddy along, and then Billy Blanks, also to do my physicals, my fitness and
get your cardio and everything ready to go,
strength and conditioning and things. So it's always everything is a team effort, and you have to also make sure that the fighter is comfortable, that the chemistry, everything goes together, and that's exactly what happened. So when my father's not around, we have these guys who are also gonna be around to help me out, whether my father is around or not around. We are getting a team in place, and right now, one person that is missing from the team, which I believe from next week will be getting on board. It's a padman. Someone to be doing the mix. Like I was saying earlier. Over the years, my father has sustained a lot of injuries. From doing pads, it takes its toll on you, and he's made me understand that. Look, I need to have a serious padman, someone that can be doing pass with you, because you need that sort of snap, and agility, all those sort of things, sharpness, everything. And so he's just bringing people together to make sure that we all have a common goal, to make sure that I'm always at the top of my game. And everything seems to be going well. We're waiting for the padman to come. So when it comes next week, maybe a lot of you guys will be seeing him.
That's where the YouTube videos come out. People love that stuff. The YouTube videos of the pad work. Oh my goodness, millions of views. I guarantee.
So we're just looking forward to it.
Is it true that you have in the past been a sparring partner of Carl Frampton's?
Yes. Frampton, he's a great guy. He's a great friend of mine. I looked up to him when I was coming up. I was in amateurs and I was sparring with him. And, and I think the first time we went to spar with him, it was kind of like a war, And we came back. Then they called us again and we went. Third time they called again and we went. They said, and then I think his manager at the time said to my father, Paul, most of the people that call spars, they don't come back. When you call them, they make excuses, they don't come back. But your son, you guys keep coming all the time. And he was quite shocked. And I was like, you know what? So we set up a day, like a few days and stuff, every time he needs sparring. And sometimes I could be in college and my father would come and pick me up and we'll go to college. And that would be like my longer lunch break with maybe a free period. My father would come and pick me up, we'll go. So I'll disappear for about an hour and a half, or maybe 2 hours from college. I'll go, come back, and like I see nothing has happened. I just come back to class and everything is just normal. So, Carl is a top guy, top operator. I was with him in camp when he was training, preparing for Kiko Martinez too, and Hugo Cazares, and other fights too. So he's strong. He can fight, That's why he's I think 2 or 3 time 2 division world champion. So he's a top operator.
So going into the fight, then understanding that you guys are familiar with each other.
Look, at the moment we have to treat this as a rumor. My manager said. My manager told me about the things that's going on. They heard my name being mentioned with associated with Carl Frampton, for November 30th, but we haven't signed any contract yet. So I don't want to say anything that's gonna cause Carl Frampton to sign a contract.
Yeah, understandable.
So
you would be open to it, despite the fact that you're familiar with each other, though. Like you're
exactly. It's the same way that I read I was also told that Dogboe versus Conlan.
That has to be
You
so
know,
interesting. You just
that
read all
also-
this news about
that-
yourself.
Exactly. That also came. You know, my manager told me that as well, and we're like, okay. And then after a while, they say Dogboe versus Frampton. That also came. So right now we're just kind of like, okay, we don't really know what's happening.
Did
but
you?
we
And
just have
Dogboe
to-
retired. Did you read Dogboe retired?
I haven't seen that.
You haven't
one.
seen that one?
No,
That came up too.
I haven't seen that one yet
As
either.
I was researching for this interview, one of the things that came, obviously, which couldn't be the truth at this point, was that you had retired.
Oh wow.
And I was like, well, that has to be false. We're not going to put that on
That-
Stump
that's
a
Stacks.
Stump
Yeah,
Stacks,
yeah,
right?
we're not going to add that one to Stump
Look,
Stacks.
the thing is, you know, everyone knows that I lost my last 2 fights, so probably his team is probably thinking that, okay, he lost his last 2 fights. Last 2 fights weren't impressive, you know, but so they believe they may have a chance, you know. But the thing is, when I saw the news, you know, social media were in frenzy. You know, everything was crazy. Dogboe versus Frampton. This is a fight I want to see.
Yes.
This is gonna be a crazy fight. It's gonna be toe to toe from round 1 to whenever. You know, so
That's this guy right here, by the way.
you know, so I was like, wow, you know, it really caught the public's eye, and it's interesting because you have 2 ex-world champions, you know, and if they're put together to fight, the public wants, they're demanding to see this fight. TV wants this fight, you know. ESPN wants to see this fight. I'm sure Bob Arum and Top Rank, everyone is anticipating to see what's going to happen. You know, everyone wants to see. Isaac Dogboe lost his last 2 fights. Carl Frampton is a 2-division world champion. He's an ex world champion, and it's gonna be a great fight. Let's see how this is gonna pan out. How this is gonna, you know, come out. Who's gonna be on top? Has Isaac Dogboe still got it? Has Carl Frampton still got it? Isaac Dogboe is a younger man, but he lost his last 2 fights. So let's see how that's gonna happen. You know, so there's always that sort of uncertainty there. But right now, I've been placed in a certain uncertainty in the fact that I haven't signed no contract. So, you know, they cannot wait until a month before and they say, no, you have to sign a contract. When that happens, then maybe, you know what, the stakes have to go higher, because we have to do things in advance so that everyone has an equal opportunity to prepare, you know, to come, you know, into the ring on the night of the fight and put on a spectacular fight. Put on the fight that, you know, will keep people talking for a very long time. Like Gatti Ward, you know, that's a fight people still talk about to this day. You know, and I'm not trying to sound like Deontay Wilder.
No.
To this day. You know, so it's just one of those things.
AB.
Right?
Was that was it AB or was it Joshua to this day? Who was that?
That's AB, right?
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But even though you're not in camp, you're still training. You're still sparring right now, right?
Yeah, we're training. We're doing what we can. You know,
Stay in shape.
Yeah, at the moment we
Clearly.
just you know,
Right?
Clearly you stay in shape a little bit.
We're making sure that we're doing the right things. You know, but until anything pops up, you know, from somewhere.
And how much more comfortable are you at 26 compared to 22?
It's way better than 122, but you know, at the same time, I'm not looking to settle in at 126 for too long. You know, I'm looking to move up once I capture world title at this weight division at 120, 126. You know, because our last when I was in the super bantamweight division, the plan was to, you know, get a title, defend it, and then move up. But then there's some people, you know, advising my father that, look, let him be there. He can run this division. He can do this. He can do that. You know, so we kind of like, my father was like, you know what, okay, no problem. Let's try and see how that goes. And then December 8th came, and it was a disaster. You know, we made the weight, but then fighting in the ring was a big issue. You know, you get up, you get out there, and you're just like, damn. You know, it's like your energy levels are depleted. You know, you see the shots, you're able to maneuver yourself in, but then for the shot to come, it's like as if something is holding you back. You know, and you know, we addressed this, we addressed the issue with Bob, and you know, we told him about how we're struggling about at 122. You know, but you know, he was like, you know what? Again, the rematch came, and we thought, you know what? Let's change a few things and see how that's gonna happen. But at the same time, look, once your body cannot take certain things anymore, it can't take it anymore. You know, you drain yourself so much, and then you lose all your essential minerals in your body, and then how you're supposed to operate. You know, comparing my last 2 fights to my other previous fights, there was such a big difference.
And see, I'm glad you're communicating that. I'm glad that you're saying that and that you're openly speaking about it, because a lot of times you get trainers and you get people that are in certain people's corner that maybe don't know the importance of the weight cut and how it actually affects a human body. You know, we've had a few tragedies over the last few months in the ring. Apparently, I got a text right now during the show that we lost another boxer last night, a 21-year-old. I really haven't gotten into the details about it, but apparently another one, a 21-year-old, died last night in the ring. But, you know, just speaking about the importance of the weight loss, of the weight cut, of the draining, of the losing of the minerals, and how it affected you just as a boxer, I think more people need to hear that. And I think more corners need to take heed and listen to their fighters when their fighters are saying, my body just can't do it, instead of pushing them just one more fight. Make the weight, just do it one more time. You know, and pushing these fighters, where a lot of times these fighters have been with these trainers that a lot of times are family members or friends for the longest time, and they don't want to take that and say no to them. You know what I'm saying? And you know, for you to speak about it, for you to talk to Bob Arum, for you to bring it forward, I mean, I really applaud you on that, because I think more fighters need to look at their bodies and not try to do it for their managers or for their trainers or for their promoters, but do it for themselves. And when they feel their bodies breaking down and not feeling comfortable at a certain weight class, they need to speak up and say something, because they're going to end up dead. And that's the sad fact. You know, there's a lot more to these fighters dying in the ring than just the weight loss, of course. But I think that's a very important part of the whole situation that's going on right now. You know, I think that's a subject that needs to be looked deeper at.
I'm going to take a tangent very quick, because one of the things I observed through every interview I've seen with you and everything I've read about is this close relationship with your father. So there is some controversy in your neck of the woods now, the 126, 130-pound division this week, where Leo Santa Cruz, who is also has a close relationship with his father, has been trained by his father, who has a sort of ongoing social media battle with Gary Russel Jr., kind of culminated to a head. And Serge, you had some strong thoughts or opinions about this that you shared. The gist of it is, for those who haven't seen it, and I don't know how you could not have if you follow boxing, but effectively is that Gary Russel Jr. threatened his father, who is also terminally ill. He has cancer. So he came across his father. He made some threatening remarks to him. And so we've kind of had this topic on here before when discussing Big Baby Miller and some other things, which is, you know, as fighters, as members of the media, as cut men, is there a line when it comes to promoting an event, when it comes to, you know, the promotional boundaries and everybody making as big a fight as they could possibly make? You know, I'm all for getting fighters paid all that they're worth, right? But is there a line where there's hey, you know what, in terms of promotional things, this is too far? The things that can be said that are too much or done that are too much. And Serge, I know you've kind of already expressed your opinion on this, but to summarize it, your sense is that Gary Russel perhaps crossed that line.
He drove right past that line, like without hesitation. And again, that's just my point of view. There's just certain things that should be left untouched. Family being one of those. I understand, you know, And I'm not gonna say that you just see it in boxing. You see it in every sport. You know, the drama, the show. You have to hype things up for you to be in the public eye. You know, there's a saying. You know, no publicity is bad publicity. You're being spoken of, and you're in the you're in the mouth of people. But yeah, I think what he did. It was just a classless act. If he really wanted. I don't know. I find it hard to swallow what he did. If he was trying to be the thug, that have that thug mentality to try to pick and prod at Leo or whatnot, I just think he went about the wrong way. I mean, step up to Leo, tell him something. You know where he's at. We're in LA. There's only so many gyms that you can find Leo Santa Cruz in, and I mean, if you really have that animosity that you want to make this fight happen, approach the man. Don't come to his father who's terminally ill, and put on the show like that and say the words. I saw the video. I don't think he directly said it to the father.
No,
I
he
think
didn't. He said it
made the actions
to
and
Leo
then
Santa Cruz,
went out and told Santa Cruz, via
I
camera.
I could have hurt your father.
I had him there.
Yeah.
I just think, there's certain things that you don't do. And as a professional athlete, he lost total respect of, and I'm just me, I'm sure it's not going to hurt him one bit. But I think as a whole, looking at the whole picture, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like a number of the topics we've talked about kind of hit on this. One of them is the fact that, one of the quotes that I read from you earlier was the idea that people are watching you, whether they're watching you or not. So you can set a bad example, and I'm all for promotion, but I also think it can be done in a positive way. Like in your example, taking you as an example, I would say, I've used terms like marketable, electric, and those things come from you and your natural personality. My sense in talking to you is they're not manufactured, and they're also very positive qualities. They're not like you don't have to go and assault someone's, or say I'm going to assault, your family or something like that. So I am for promotion, like anything I think that draws spectators to the sport and draws money for fighters. But I can understand that one being a harder pill to swallow.
It's kind of like just in general, there's just a few things that you don't bring up, religion, politics, family. You don't cross that line when it comes to pumping up a fight. Even we seen what happened in the MMA between Khabib and McGregor. Once McGregor's crossed that whole boundary about the Muslim race and his religion, not the race, the Muslim religion.
Thank you.
And just his whole background, it got ugly. It got ugly real quick. Because people take that to heed. People don't understand that in other countries how big religion really is compared to here in the United States. Yes, of course, we have the different religions here and whatnot, but you have some countries that pray 13 times a day. That's their main focus. And then they look at the United States and they see Sin City and they see the drugs and they see the alcohol and they see the prostitution and they see all this on television, and it's wide open when they come from third world countries and their main focus is the religion. And then you start crossing that boundary with family and religion, of course it's going to get personal and it's going to get ugly real quick.
Isaac, as a fighter, is there an unwritten rule? Is there a line where it's like, hey, these things shouldn't be said about me or about my family, or is there a too far, I guess, in promotional antics?
The thing is, this is what I think personally. I believe that if I have a fight with you, it should be mainly between me and you. But at the same time, other fighters will do things unknowingly. They do it for the fun of it. They think it'll be funny. They may not really sincerely mean it to in a way that other people may see it to be. And they may say things that will affect other people, but not necessarily you. But then they may not. They don't mean it in that manner. But I believe that everyone has the right to their own opinions, and sometimes we just have to know how to come across when we are talking to other people or trying to promote a show or a fight. I think that way it makes everyone happy. It didn't start just now. It's been like that for a very long time ago. I heard Mike Tyson once said it's going to eat someone's children.
Exactly.
Lennox Lewis.
I mean, sometimes when you hear this, it's funny. You are laughing about it.
That's true. That is true.
Another person may not find it funny.
Yeah, and
so
it's also because the time has passed and we look back on it now and we think, wow, that's silly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to your point, a lot of that is probably psychological warfare, right? So it's more than just being physically prepared.
They just want to get under your skin,
Yeah, exactly.
Just to see how you're going to react. They don't throw you off your guard, off your game. So when you come to the ring, all that you think about is you're gonna come in there and start fighting. I heard Oscar De La Hoya when he was going to fight with Mayorga. The things that took place, even Mayorga and Shea Mosley. So it's always sort of like those sort of things where people would try and get under your skin, and they will want to say anything to you just to see how you're going to react to it. But you just have to be able to, kind of like take a back step a little bit and just watch them. We'll talk in the ring when we get there. Just that sort of thing.
And so as a fighter, you just have to be mentally prepared to,
of course,
not let that affect you in your performance.
Definitely.
And things like that.
Definitely.
Big unification fight this Saturday at the Staples Center between Earl Spence Jr. and Sean Porter. At the WBC champ and the IBF champ going head to head. How do you see that fight playing out?
Do you know what's going on? There's a big debate in my house between myself, my father, and my little brother. Josiah. He's 14 years old. He's a very.
Is that your little brother right there?
Yeah.
Who'd you get? Who you got?
Very talented.
Okay.
Earl Spence.
He's got Errol Spence. My father's got Sean Porter. And me, I'm kind of like in between.
You're listening to both sides of it, trying to see who has the best argument.
But look, Spence is a great fighter. Porter too, the same. Porter has been in some wars. Spence, I would say he's much more of like a boxer in a way with some of his fights. But I haven't really seen Spence in a dogfight in a way. But you have to. Maybe it's just the way he fights. He makes it look easy, But at the same time, you have to give credit to Sean Porter. He comes to fight. He's a little guy, and I admire him a lot. I know that he can fight. So this will be a very, very interesting fight to watch, and may the best man win.
Are you gonna go out? Are you gonna make your prediction?
No, I got Spence with the late round stoppage. I think
stoppage even.
Yeah, he's gonna stop. Yeah, I think he'll apply too much pressure. I mean, he's gonna end up catching Porter coming in. Porter's gonna be down a few rounds. He's gonna have to try to get in there, and he's gonna get caught in the later rounds, be tired. I think the first few rounds will probably go to Porter. I think Porter will. Use his strength. I think he might be actually stronger than Spence. I think he'll put Spence against the ropes. He'll make it a dirty fight. Spence will adjust and start, using his length and outboxing him. And then Spence will, he'll finish him off at the end once Porter feels like he has to finish the fight. He's going to have to go in there and try to score, and he's going to get caught, and Spence is going to put him to sleep.
Do I even want to watch a fight after that, right?
It's all broken down.
That's nice. Yeah, you broke it down.
Thoughts on it?
I kind of agree with what he said. I definitely think he's going to come at first, dog dirty, and he's going to come and make it a brawl, and he's going to try to put the pressure on Spence. But I think the adjustments will be made, and I think, like you said, that reach, he's going to establish it. He's going to box him a little, like you said, he's more of a boxer. He's going to box him, and I don't think it'll be a stoppage, so I think it'll go to the scorecards.
So what about you?
Oh, I have to take a turn?
Yeah.
Okay. My sense is that Errol Spence is going to walk away with this, and I'll explain why. So, Sean Porter, the stylistic nightmare that he was for the boxers, was a style that I would refer to as reckless abandon, which means that it is a come forward and throw punches style. And you watch him try and fight people like Adrian Broner and things like this, And it's just, or even Paulie Malignaggi is probably the best example, right? It is reckless abandon. It doesn't matter. I'm going to come in, and you'd say, I'll censor myself, but you got to bring it to get it. That's kind of the mentality that he has. But somewhere along the way, over the past 2 fights, someone convinced Sean Porter he was better as a boxer, and that he should get on his toes, and that he should jab more, and that he should do these things. And I actually feel like they're the moments where he is the least successful. When you watch his fight against Danny Garcia is winning whenever Sean Porter is trying to box. Sean Porter is winning in the moments where he reverts to reckless abandon, when he goes back and says, oh, no, and then they, oh, no, remember, box. And it's the same thing against Yordenis Ugas. I thought he lost against Yordenis Ugas. He would have lost on the scorecards if the judges had accurately ruled the 12th round knockdown as a knockdown, that's what it was. You could say he tripped all you want. We have a word in boxing for when you get hit and you trip and fall down. That's called a knockdown, and we take away points for that. So, like, my sense is he really should have lost to Ugas, and it's because he didn't apply the right strategy. He tried to outbox someone who is a Cuban national amateur with a tremendous pedigree, who is a very talented boxer. And my sense is he lost. And so somewhere along the way, he's kind of changed this game plan. And I think if you come out and you think I'm going to dance on my toes and jab and have this jabbing contest with Errol Spence, he's not going to win. He's not going to win. You know what might work is if he just went with that reckless abandon style and said, I'm going to catch Errol with something. I'm going to make him uncomfortable, right? I'm going to do the things that Mikey wasn't able to do. Mikey tried to do the 1-2. Mikey tried to do it. It doesn't matter, right? Like Errol is just a athletically superior and was a better boxer. They're both very big men. I think both are large for welterweights, like easily could compete at 154 if they chose to. So I don't think it's not like the Mikey in the sense where I don't mean he has this huge size and athletic advantage. Sean is a big guy, but I just think in the last 2 fights, my impression is he came out with the wrong game plan. And in the first one, he won a close, tight decision. In the second one, I thought he should have lost. And realistically, this fight should be between Errol and Yordenis Ugas.
I think I'm ready to place my bet against my dad now. So
I convinced him.
I've got some insights. So
that's my sense. It depends on what Sean Porter we see, because you don't know, right? Until fight night, you don't know what Sean Porter you're going to see. If you see the one who was in these last 2 fights, Danny Garcia and Yordenis Ugas. No, it's not the right style. It's not the right style.
Real quick from you two. Another big fight announced. This time you got Canelo moving up 15 pounds to fight the light heavyweight champion, Sergey Kovalev. Kovalev, he's up in age, seems to be slowing down. How do you guys see the fight playing out? We'll start with you, Isaac. Canelo.
But look,
that one was easy. There's no controversy in that one.
That's look. I really admire Canelo. I believe that it's one of the great Mexican fighters. And looking at Kovalev's last fight, it didn't really look impressive, but he did what he had to do to win. For he seems like a veteran in the game now. Kovalev years ago, it's not the same Kovalev now. Now it's much more smarter. Like, he's slowed down a little bit, and it's not as reckless, as he used to be a little bit, But I believe that we just have to see what Kovalev turns up, because we've seen a little bit of a weak point there, and kind of like exploited him. Yardi exploited him a little bit, but he didn't have the edge to continue to be able to take him out of there. So let's see how Canelo deals with him. But he's moving up weight, and that's Kovalev's natural weight. So let's see how that goes. If size and reach and height will,
no debate in the house about that one. You guys everybody's on the same page.
How about you, Big Serge? How do you see it playing out, man?
Like you said, Kovalev is a little higher in age. He's an older guy. Canelo being a younger kid, faster. I think the power of the punch is what's gonna make. I see somebody getting knocked out, and I don't think it's gonna be Canelo. I truly believe that Crusher might end up going to sleep that night.
What?
I think so. I
Yeah,
think so.
I don't think he gets stopped, man. I
do.
mean, I think Canelo puts a beating on him, but I don't think he'll get stopped.
I think he'll get stopped.
He has to.
He's gonna get caught.
You think he gets caught?
I think he gets caught.
I don't know. It's a bold prediction there, but I just think.
You wanted me to make a bold prediction.
That's
I
fine,
remember
and
at
that's
one
good.
point you made a comment to me about you should have said that when I made the comment about Andy and Joshua. You know.
Yeah. So now you're saying okay.
So now I have to go ahead and just voice it because I was saying it from the very. You know, everybody says Andy's this and Andy's that. How can look at the size difference? But the whole time I'm like, you guys don't see what I'm seeing, during the week when we're sparring and training and work. You don't see the Andy Ruiz. You guys take the experience that he has, and you look at the book, but you don't see the content.
So how many candles did you have to light to get the one lucky punch from God that Joshua said he landed?
Hey, you know what?
What a terrible,
dude. Seriously, a lucky punch from God. Seriously,
that was a joke, dude.
You can see where he gets hit. Joshua gets hit. He swings over. Andy ducks it and lands that same punch on Joshua.
Same punch twice in a row.
Same punch twice in a row. Lucky punch in my ass.
No, and that punch was trained. I mean, it was beautiful watching it happen because I felt like I was watching it in the ring
in the
when
gym.
We're sparring at the gym. Exactly. Whoop, whoop. It was, it was beautiful.
I'm just opposed to that idea in general. Either all punches are lucky, or none of them are.
None of them are.
Right? Like meaning, I'm always trying to hit you. You're always trying to avoid it. Right? So if I hit you, I guess in the sense that if I hit you, they're all lucky.
They're all lucky.
Yeah, they're all lucky because I was trying to and it actually landed. Or none of them are lucky. Like one of the two.
You guys know, man. You guys are in the gym. Each punch it's all muscle memory. You know exactly what you're going to throw. Your 1-1s, 2s, this, that, your left, your right, what combos you're going to come with. It's instilled in you. Your body just does it automatically because you do that in the gym. You know what you're throwing. It's not a lucky punch.
That's what all that flashy mitt work is for. When you post up all the mitt work videos, well, no, it's muscle memory.
All right. Well.
Oh, man. I think that's all I got.
Yeah. Isaac, man, tell the fans where they can follow you.
Where should we follow you, man?
On Instagram, Isaac Braveson on Instagram. Twitter at Isaac Dogboe. The Dogboe Dogboe. And I think my Facebook page, NeHo. Yeah, or Isaac Royal Storm Dogboe. Yes. And thank you guys so much. I've had a great, time here. Thank you for inviting me, and thanks to all our listeners, for your messages and your, getting involved in your comments and everything.
Yeah. Regalio Guzman said Isaac Dogboe is the man. And then he says, I didn't know he spoke English. Brother, he speaks English better than me.
Right?
Come on. He was raised in English.
He speaks real English.
That's the Kings right there. No, I'm just kidding.
Big Serge, man. Where can they follow you at, Big Serge?
Facebook, Sergio Big Serge Estrada. Instagram, big_Serge_Estrada. Twitter, big_Serge_Ace.
And if you guys ever are in need of a cut, man, MMA, boxing, whatnot, hit up Sergio in his inbox, man. Let him know he's always available to work. He's worked with some of the best in the business. He's worked UFC cards, Bellator cards for people that watch MMA. He just did
Muay Thai, kickboxing,
Muay Thai, everything. He's worked Golden Boy. He's worked Thompson Boxing. He's worked Top Rank. He's worked PBC cards.
Yeah, so I've been there.
Yeah, he's been in with the best. He's worked the best. He's an experienced cut man. So if you guys ever need anybody, hit up Big Serge. You can follow me on Supreme Boxing at SupremeBoxingInc.com and on all Supreme Boxing social media platforms. Also, if you are in the Vegas area, be sure to stop by the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame. We have our new museum inside of Heads Up Las Vegas, inside of the Boulevard Mall in Las Vegas on Maryland Parkway. We have a lot of nice, I would say, different types of historical memorabilia that you can go and take a look at. We have a ring in there. It's an interactive museum. So if you're in Vegas, stop by, check out the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame Museum, and also follow us on Beat the Count.
That's right. You can follow us at Beat the Count on Instagram, at Beat the Count on Facebook. Thank you very much. And I also want to thank Combat Sports Collective, logo of champions. You guys make sure to follow Combat Sports Collective. What don't they do? Photography, videography. They also have branded apparel and water bottles. Make sure to follow Combat Sports Collective on Instagram. That's it for this episode of Beat the Count. Thank you very much to the Royal Storm, Isaac Dogboe, Big Serge Estrada, Cutman Extraordinaire. Thank you guys for coming out today. I very much enjoyed having this conversation with you, and I hope to get to do it again sometime.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
That's all I got for this week.
Peace.
Take care.